We've already had a brief look at quotes, but let's do a little bit more of a deep dive in some of the web-based quoting features. Just to recap, we've already connected to Xero. We could also connect to MYOB, of course, if we wanted to. They work both the same way. And we've pulled in all of the products, all of the companies into the CRM. Because we pulled all the products in, we've linked the products up with the correct text codes, correct GL codes, so they're just sitting there ready to use. We also went through, and in the quote settings, we made ourselves this standard template. We can pull in, I'll just show us again, pull in the logo, choose our colors based on the logo and our color palette, and just configure up the quote so that it's ready to go. You can have as many of those as you like, so you can load in different logos for different business units and things like that. No limits around that. So let's actually have a look now at making a quote. So I'll do a quote from scratch. We'll go in here, hit the new quote button. One of the things that we've done, people hate data entry, I'm one of them, so what we've done is we've turned the quoting on its head as compared to our desktop product. We pick the person's name first, so let's pick Bob at Bayside. So we pick Bob's name, it automatically drops his company in because we know where he works. The quote defaults to status, it's assigned to me because that's where I'm logged in, and I'm selling out of head office. I have the ability to specify a delivery date, and I have the ability to specify a validity date. I'm also able to show quote prices incorrect tax. So if you're dealing with people, you want to give them typically inclusive of GST prices. If you're dealing with companies, most companies don't care about the GST because they offset it, of course. So business to business, you're going to primarily sell X tax, or at least quote X tax, should I say. Different templates here. We've got template and standard. Standard we made the default. In the real world, you'd obviously give those things much better names. So let's just scroll down a little bit more. It's pulled in the address details. They can be overwritten as required. We've got a ship to address and we have a billing address. And now we get down here into the quoting section. So earlier on, what we did, we just grabbed up some golf balls and we've pulled them onto the quote. I can add more items on. Add on a 6-pack, no problem, and I can keep doing that all day. We have though got some more advanced features around our quoting. So let's take a look at some of those features now. So first of all, structuring up a quote. I actually would like the 6-pack to go first, so we can click and flick and change the order of the items. We can drag and drop as well. We have different item types, so I could add a comment. We can obviously change where that goes as well using either the arrows or drag and drop. We're also able to add subtotals. They just jump in. And we're able to add groups. So where you might use groups, let's just free up a little bit of room here, is you might say, for example, have room 1 equipment. And then we could pop the room, this up here, and this is going to be my kind of room because it's going to have, it's going to have golf balls in it. So we can add a couple of different things in room 1 and change our quantities and things like that. And basically now we've got some options here at the top. Can we multi-select and things like that? I'll put a subtotal on there as well, so we've got a subtotal on that group. So this lets us break up our quote in different ways. And finally we have the option of freight. So freight's pretty cool because basically it's all very well selling something, you've actually got to get it to the customer. So I can go here, hit my freight button, and it knows that I'm selling from Sydney because I set my location to Sydney, that's where I'm based. It knows this customer's delivery is in Bayview, and what I'm just going to do is I'll just pick a carton and we'll say 20 by 20 by 20, and we'll say it's 2 kilos, and we'll say it weighs 2 kilos as well, and we just hit the get prices button. What this is doing now is it's using your account with the courier. It's not using some sort of middleman service other than the technology. and it's giving us various options based on price. So we'll grab that one, save that onto our quote as well, and it's pulled in Blue Star, pulled in those details, and it's put in our prices as well. We've got options on there also to automatically mark up prices as well. So when you're doing quoting, you might get a $10 quote back from a courier. You might just want to put a bit of a margin on that. We'll do that for you automatically. And that facility there works with about 60 different couriers. So here's our quote. We've got that now. So while we're saving that quote, what it's going to do is it's going to create the consignment quote, so that could be used later on if the quote's accepted. Save the quote into the system, and away we go. We've got it here. It is possible for me to put notes on the quote. So I could say a note on a quote. I can make it bold, italic, underline. Everywhere through the system we've got this bold, italic, underline, rich sort of text type experience. So we can save that there. Now we can see, if we look at the timeline, I created a note on a quote. I can preview the quote as a PDF, and we'll see that pop up in just a moment. This is the same PDF that we could send to the customer. You can see it's got details that we've entered in earlier on in testing, including the logo. There's our quote. Room 1 equipment's our heading, so that's where we put the group. There's our comment. So we can see here that that's looking not too bad for an out-of-the-box quotation. What's quite interesting though is we're actually able to view this quote as a customer. So this is pretty neat. You click the button, and using the template you're going to get a web-based version of the quote. The idea is you can take the link, email the link to the customer. We'll give you a button to do that soon, and basically the customer can receive this quote. The nice thing is they can receive the quote via email, or they can receive it via SMS. So imagine everyone has smartphones these days. You're sending out a quote, the competition is sending out a quote, your phone arrives in their your quote arrives in their email, but it also arrives via SMS. They can click it instantly. They've got your quote on the screen before they even know the competition's quote's arrived. They're also able to go and accept the quote, sign the quote online with the finger, and hit the accept order button, which I won't do just now. They can also ask questions. If they type a question inside here, does it float? That's the first thing that came to mind. They have a question from the customer today, does it float? That'll send your salesperson an email saying that the customer's asked a question. If they then go into the CRM and look at the timeline, not only will they see the note on the quote, sorry, I need to refresh that. Not only will they see the note on the quote, they'll see the question that the customer's asked. And they actually can answer that question in line on that timeline view. So here's our timeline, and here's the feedback. Does it float? Add answer. And save. So there you can see we've got a question, an answer. I've popped it on there. If I go back to my web-based quote now and hit my refresh button, we won't see the customer's signature, by the way, because I didn't save that. I don't want to accept the quote just yet. But what we can see down here, question, does it float? Answer, the golf balls, they're going to sink. We can do that all day, keep adding questions. We can sign and accept the order, which will then transfer that data across into CRM. The quote then becomes read-only. The customer can no longer ask questions or comments. Inside CRM, of course, we still have that quote. It'll show up in our list of quotes. And I think we've only got 1 or 2 quotes in here, maybe just 2. Okay, so one's accepted, they're both accepted. So I could now go and deal with these quotes. We've got $155 worth of quotes accepted. I can move those around should I choose to reconfigure them, and I can choose what statuses I have there. So we've got the quote, we've just done that quote, customers accepted it. We have on our timeline the questions and the answers. We also have, I don't know whether you would have noticed, but we did a freight quote as part of this quote. So that's actually going to be linked to the freight quote. We can see the customer's signature accepting the quote. We can send the quote to the customer, but now what we want to really do is just convert it to a sales order. Now it's a sales order. If we want to preview the sales order, again, we can just preview it as a PDF. It's going to come up on the screen using the templated information that we had before. There's our sales order. No great surprises there. We haven't implemented an ability to view a sales order as a customer. It doesn't seem to make an awful lot of sense. We can, if we wish, drop down and send by email. I won't do that now. We can also convert to an invoice. If I convert to an invoice, then I'll have the ability to send that to Xero as well. So that, in a nutshell, is our quoting and selling system in the web CRM.